All right, let's dive into one of the most important chapters for your LSO paralegal exam, professional responsibility. Look, this isn't just about memorizing a bunch of rules. It's really about building an instinct, a kind of sixth sense for spotting ethical issues when you're under the gun during the exam. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, why this stuff matters so much. Then we'll get into how you can spot the key triggers in exam questions. After that, we'll drill down into the rules you absolutely have to know, and we'll finish up with what happens when things go wrong. Let's get right into it. First up, the big picture. We've got to understand why this chapter is so fundamental to your success and, honestly, why it's tested so heavily. So what are we really talking about here? It's easy to think of it as just a list of do's and don'ts, but it's so much more than that. It is the entire framework, the very foundation of how the paralegal profession governs itself and your place in it. Okay, and here is the absolute key. The LSO's number one job is to make sure that legal professionals are serving the public competently and ethically. That phrase, public interest, well, that's your North Star. It guides every single rule and every ethical decision you're ever going to make. To make that happen, the LSO has laid everything out for us in 9 core paralegal rules of conduct. Now, you should think of these as the fundamental pillars that hold up your entire professional practice. I mean, everything from how you talk to clients to how you run your office, it's all in there. So, why do you need to know this stuff cold? Well, it's because these rules don't just live in their own little section on the exam. Oh no, you might get a question about a small claims court matter that secretly has a conflict of interest issue buried in it, or maybe a landlord-tenant scenario that involves an improper fee. The exam is testing your ability to recognize the ethical problem hiding inside a practical, everyday scenario. All right, section 2. This is all about tuning your exam radar. We're going to go over the common fact patterns, the key triggers that should make a little alarm bell go off in your head and make you think, aha, this is a professional responsibility question. Now, I want you to think of this table as your mental checklist. When you're reading a question and you see words like undertaking or referral fee or advertising, your brain needs to instantly flag the specific rule being tested. This is exactly how you cut through all the noise in a complicated scenario and zero in on the real issue. Okay, let's get into the absolute essentials. These are the rules you have to know inside and out, backwards and forwards, no hesitation. When you're under pressure in the exam, you need to be able to pull these up and apply them just like that. Think of Rule 2 as your basic code of conduct. It's all about how you carry yourself as a professional. So on the exam, if you see a scenario that involves, say, a tense conversation with opposing counsel, or a promise you made to another paralegal, that's your trigger. That's a Rule 2 question. I'm telling you, a huge chunk of your exam questions are going to touch on Rule 3 somehow. It covers literally every part of your relationship with your client, from that very first meeting to the very last email. And pay special attention to confidentiality and conflicts of interest. The examiners absolutely love testing those. This rule, it's all about how you act inside the hearing room. And what's so critical to remember here is that your duty isn't just to your client. You have this profound duty to be honest and totally upfront with the tribunal. Exam questions love to create tension between fighting for your client and upholding your duty to the court. Here's a simple rule of thumb for the exam. If the question mentions money, billing, invoices, retainers, anything to do with getting paid, your mind has to jump straight to Rule 5. The tiny details around what makes a proper contingency fee or forbidden referral fee, they get tested all the time. All right, now for a really crucial point that could easily be the difference between getting a question right or wrong. The rules use super specific language, and you have got to know the difference between something you must do versus something you just should do. This is a classic exam trap. If a rule says you must do something, it's not a suggestion. It is non-negotiable. Breaking that rule means there are consequences. But if a guideline says you should do something, that's a best practice. It's a really good idea for sure, but it's not a disciplinary offense on its own. The exam will definitely test if you know the different weight those two little words carry. Okay, let's talk about the curveballs. These are the areas where the examiners just love to set traps for you, usually by putting 2 competing duties against each other to see if you really know which one is more important. And there it is, the classic dilemma. Your client is telling you to do one thing, but your gut, your professional conscience, is screaming at you to do another. This pits your duty to your client right up against your duty to the justice system. So what do? Where does your ultimate obligation really lie? And here is the bottom line, the thing you absolutely have to remember. Your duty to your client is huge. It's fundamental, but it is not absolute. It never, ever gives you permission to mislead a tribunal or mess with the justice system. Your duty to the administration of justice is your ultimate overriding obligation. On the exam, that is the right answer. Every single time. And finally, let's talk about the stakes. What actually happens when a rule gets broken? Because understanding the potential outcomes, well, it really helps hammer home why every single one of these rules is so important. This isn't some informal slap on the wrist. When a complaint comes in, it triggers a formal, structured regulatory machine. The Professional Regulation Division investigates, and if they think there's something there, it goes to a formal hearing. This is a very serious chain of events, all designed to protect the public. And the potential outcomes are severe. They can range from fines and having to take extra courses, all the way up to getting your license suspended or, in the worst cases, taken away completely. This right here, this slide, it shows you why mastering these rules isn't just about passing a test. It is about protecting your entire career. So as you keep studying, ask yourself this. Now that you can spot the triggers and you know the rules, what's the first thing you're going to double check to make sure you're compliant? That wraps up our breakdown. Remember, the goal isn't just to pass an exam, it's to build the ethical foundation for a long, successful career. You've got this. Good luck with your studies.